On the day of my wedding, my fiancé Oliver appeared with his pregnant widowed sister-in-law, Sophia. In front of countless guests, he told me that he would only marry me if I agreed to accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities, and allowed her to live with us. The entire banquet hall was stunned. I, however, scoffed. Then, under everyone's astonished gaze, I tore off my wedding veil and said calmly, "Then let's not get married. You seem to have forgotten, it was the Vance family who begged me to marry into it." After speaking, I immediately instructed my secretary, Miss Sarah, immediately cancel all collaborations related to the Vance family, and all my personal belongings for the marriage that I moved to the Vance family estate, have them all moved back. The moment my words fell, the Vance family's faces turned ashen. The family was already on the verge of bankruptcy. They were counting on my marriage to Oliver to support them, but had to pull such a stunt right in front of me. Seeing me tear off my wedding veil and declare the wedding off, Oliver's mother, Margaret, grimaced. Then, with a strained, displeased smile, she said to me, "Luna, Oliver just wants to take care of his widowed sister-in-law. It doesn't affect you. Why are you so angry?" After speaking, she glared at Oliver. "Oliver, aren't you going to apologize to Luna immediately?" However, upon hearing her words, Oliver not only didn't come to apologize and reconcile. Instead, he looked at me with an air of immense arrogance and said, "Marry or not, I don't care. Sophia is my sister-in-law. She has no parents, and now my brother has unexpectedly passed away. It's my responsibility to take good care of her. If you can't accept that, then let's call off the engagement." Hearing's words, I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Meanwhile, his parents immediately looked at me with anxious expressions, constantly winking at Oliver, but completely ignored them. He even directly shielded his widowed sister-in-law, Sophia, in front of him, looking very protective. Seeing this, Sophia secretly curved her lips at me, flashing a provocative smile. I scoffed. Then, looking at Oliver with disdain, I said, "Oliver, you seem to have forgotten, it was your Vance family that begged me to marry into it. Since you want to call off the engagement, I'll grant your wish." Upon hearing my words, a look of delight immediately appeared on Sophia's face. Oliver, however, slightly frowned, but in the next moment, his expression changed. Because I directly said to my secretary, Miss Sarah, who was attending my wedding, "Miss Sarah, inform everyone, immediately cancel all collaborations related to the Vance family, and all my personal belongings for the marriage that I moved to the Vance family estate, have them all moved back." The moment my words fell, the spacious banquet hall became silent. But soon, Miss Sarah's calm response rang out, "Yes, Ms. Luna." With that, Miss Sarah took out her phone and, while making a call, walked steadily and efficiently towards the banquet hall exit. Seeing this, the Vance family's expressions immediately changed. Margaret shrieked, "Luna, have you lost your mind? Is such a small matter worth you getting so furious? Do you want to ruin the Vance family?" Hearing this, I walked towards the stage while calmly saying, "Mrs. Margaret, mind your words. It's not me who wants to ruin the Vance family. It's your son, who's taking advantage and still acting innocent, insisting on causing trouble with me." With that, I looked at Sophia's belly again. "Oliver, do you think I'm easily fooled? If I'm not mistaken, your brother passed away a year ago, right? A year after her husband's death, his wife still hasn't given birth, and you, his brother-in-law, are publicly humiliating me for her. Are you afraid people won't know whose child she's carrying?" Hearing my taunt, Sophia's face instantly turned pale. The surrounding guests began to whisper amongst themselves, their eyes full of contempt and the playful curiosity of gossip. Oliver's face immediately turned cold. "Enough, Luna. Stop slandering us. My sister-in-law and I are innocent. A woman as aggressive and domineering as you will never be loved by a man. If it weren't for Grandma's long-standing family engagement, I would never marry a woman like you." Hearing's defamation, I couldn't help but curl my lips in a mocking smile. Then, I slightly raised my chin, looking at him with disdain. "If it weren't for Grandpa's dying wish, do you think I would marry a useless second-generation rich man like you?" After my parents passed away unexpectedly, I started learning business management from my grandpa at 16. I fought my way through a male-dominated environment. If I had shown even a hint of softness, I would have been devoured by the seasoned schemers on the board, leaving nothing but bones. So, for me, nothing was more important than building my career. As for marriage? Originally, I had no intention of marrying. But William, before his death, suddenly told me that he had arranged a long-standing family engagement for me. and his greatest wish was to see me married before he died. To fulfill my grandpa's wish, I agreed to this marriage. It was a business alliance, as everyone understood. But what I didn't expect was that Grandpa passed away before he could personally see me married. Even more unexpectedly, Oliver would publicly create such an absurd scene at an important gathering of prominent figures, forcing me to agree to accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities, without even pretending otherwise. And Margaret. Oliver did such a shameless thing, yet they stood by and watched. This clearly showed that they thought with my grandpa gone, I had no one backing me, and they wanted Oliver to gain control over me. Oh bad, they were destined for disappointment. At 25, I became the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I didn't achieve that by being soft-hearted. Oliver was completely enraged by my words. What do you have to be so proud of, Luna? If you weren't the only heir to the Chen family, do you think you could hold your current position? No matter how capable a woman is, can she be more capable than a man? If it weren't for you being the Chen family heir, do you think I'd marry a shrew like you? Hearing's words, the surrounding guests all widened their eyes. For a moment, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. I even felt fortunate, thinking how lucky it was that this fool Oliver pulled such a stunt on our wedding day. Otherwise, if I had actually married him and had children, what would happen if our child inherited his foolish brain? After glancing at Oliver, I faced the esteemed guests present. As you all can see, it is not my Chen family being untrustworthy and canceling the wedding today. It is Oliver who has gone too far and shown no regard for me, a woman. Since the Vance family looks down on me so much, they must not be fond of the Chen family's projects either. I have already instructed my secretary to cancel all large and small collaborations with the Vance family. If any of you present are interested, you are welcome to collaborate with Chen. Hearing my words, many guests' eyes lit up. Then they all stood up and eagerly responded, "That would be wonderful. Ms. Luna, do you have time tomorrow? Shall we set a time to discuss the details?" I nodded slightly. Seeing this, Henry finally couldn't sit still. He shed his previous calm demeanor, shoved Oliver, who was still stubbornly holding his neck out, with such force that Oliver staggered, almost bumping into Sophia behind him. Taking a quick step, Henry rushed in front of me, looking at me with great panic and eyes full of flattery. "Luna, don't be impulsive. Good child, don't least. End to this scoundrel Oliver's nonsense." Henry's veins throbbed on his forehead, and cold sweat beaded on his skin. He glared fiercely at Oliver, then forced a sincere smile at me. He was just confused for a moment, his mind clouded. "Our family has wronged you. I apologize on his behalf. This marriage was arranged by your grandpa, myself, and Oliver's grandmother. It absolutely cannot be called off." As he spoke, he even made to kneel before me. "Uncle, I beg you, please don't let Oliver get away with this." I quickly stepped aside, avoiding Henry's attempt to kneel. A chilling sensation rose in my back. What a flexible Vance family. They were quite skilled at moral blackmail. I had never noticed before that the seemingly amicable and kind Henry had such a cunning side. If he had actually knelt before me today, my reputation would have been ruined. For a moment, I said coldly, "Uncle, what are you doing? Do you wish for me to lose years off my life?" Henry's expression immediately stiffened. "Luna, I didn't mean that. I just want you to forgive Oliver, and on my behalf, not call off the engagement with him." Hearing this, I said coldly, "No. As the saying goes, a forced relationship rarely works out. Since looks down on me, why should I bother? I have Olive Chen behind me. Do you think I can't find a good man?" Henry immediately became anxious at my words. "How is it forced? Your engagement was set when you were children, you're a match made in heaven." Seeing that I remained unmoved, he suddenly turned sharply and roared at Oliver, "You unfilial son. Why aren't you kneeling down to apologize to Luna? If you don't get Luna's forgiveness today, I will disown you." "Dad." Oliver looked at Henry in disbelief, his face filled with humiliation. Sophia, meanwhile, looked at Oliver with a distressed expression, then said to Henry, "Dad. His pride as a man, how can you make Oliver kneel before a woman?" However, Henry only looked at her coldly and said, "Get lost, what be? Usiness is this of yours? If it weren't for you, would things have escalated to this point?" Sophia's face instantly turned pale at Henry's words, and her body swayed, seeming on the verge of collapse. "Dad. I'm sorry, you're right." Seeing this, Oliver's face showed a distressed expression. Then he grabbed Sophia, who was about to run out. He then turned back and glared at me fiercely. "Luna, are you happy now?" Upon hearing this, I was filled with confusion. When did I ever pressure Sophia? If you're sick, go take your medicine, okay? Henry, seeing that Oliver was still entangled with Sophia at this moment, quickly glanced at my expression. He then kicked Oliver's back leg. Kneel. Apologize to Luna. Henry roared hoarsely, his eyes so fierce they looked as if they wanted to devour Oliver. If doesn't forgive you and doesn't marry you today, I'll consider myself as having no son. Hearing's words, Margaret suddenly woke up as if from a dream. She rushed to Oliver, harshly pushed Sophia aside, and then pounded Oliver, wailing, Oliver, apologize quickly. Do you want to see our family completely ruined? Beg. Suddenly, only Margaret's pleading echoed in the grand hall. Watching this scene, countless eyes, like spotlights, shone on Oliver, filled with mockery, pity, and most of all, the enjoyment of a spectacle. Sophia, meanwhile, cowered behind Oliver, clutching her belly with a pale face, tears welling in her eyes. Oliver, Mom and Dad are right. Don't let me ruin your marriage with Ms. Luna. Just apologize to her. Then, she looked at me with a pitiful expression. Ms. Luna, Oliver, and I truly have nothing going on. Although he's a bit impulsive, he's definitely a responsible man. If you find me an eyesore, I will leave on my own and absolutely won't disturb your life with Oliver. I calmly met her gaze, as if watching a drama unrelated to me. Then I looked mockingly at Oliver, whose hatred was practically spilling from his eyes. Meeting my sarcastic gaze, oh. Oliver reacted by instinctively shaking off Margaret's hand. Then, gritting his teeth, he said, as a woman, she can't even tolerate my sister-in-law, a widow. You actually want me to kneel before such a cold-hearted woman? After speaking, he knelt on the ground, pointed at my nose, and angrily and distortedly cursed, Luna, I've noted the humiliation you've given me today. You're just relying on your dirty money, aren't you? Let me tell you, without the Chen family's support, I, Oliver, can still make a name for myself. My time will come. Don't underestimate me. One day, I will step all over you. Watching's indignant expression, I couldn't help but smile faintly. Is that so? Then I'll wait and see. My voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. However, before you make your mark, you should first consider how to deal with the bank's massive debt collection. Since the marriage alliance is off, I naturally have no need to help your Vance family fill its financial holes, do I? The moment my words fell, Henry's phone rang like a death knell. Henry fumbled to answer the phone. After only a few words, his face instantly turned ashen, and his body swayed, almost collapsing to the ground. It's over. Suppliers are calling to collect debts, and they've cancelled their contracts with us. I didn't need to guess, I knew Miss Sarah's efficiency was astounding. The notices of withdrawal of investment and termination of cooperation had been delivered immediately. Thus, the Vance family's already fragile capital chain snapped completely at that moment. After realizing what had happened, Henry looked at me with a pleading expression. Luna, for the sake of the past relationship between our two families, can you be merciful and give the Vance family a break? Then, as if to vent my anger, he slapped Oliver hard across the face. The force of the blow even knocked out 2 of Oliver's teeth. Seeing this scene, Sophia, despite her advanced pregnancy, fell to her knee. With tears streaming down her face, distressed as she cradled Oliver's face. Oliver, does it hurt? I'm so sorry, it's all because of me that you're suffering this. Watching's pained expression, Oliver suppressed his pain and said in a muffled voice, Sophia, don't cry, it's not your fault. I insisted on taking care of you, you did nothing wrong. With that, he glared fiercely at me. If you want to blame someone, blame this venomous woman, Luna. Seeing still cursing me at this moment, Henry, infuriated, kicked him in the chest. You rebellious son. Do you want to see the entire Vance family ruined with you? Get out. From now on, I have no son named you. Hearing this, Oliver stood up with some difficulty. Then he said with a defiant coldness, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. I told you long ago I don't love Luna, but you forced me to marry her. If you had called off the engagement earlier, would we have all this mess today? After speaking, he sneered at me with a twisted smile. Luna, just you wait. I refuse to believe that without your Chen family, I, Oliver, can't rise again. He then took Sophia's hand and, stumbling somewhat, left the banquet hall. As I watched this scene, I walked out of the wedding venue, content, in my designer heels. As soon as I stepped out of the hotel entrance, my secretary, Miss Sarah, had already arranged a vehicle. Once in the car, she began to report to me, holding her iPad, Ms. Luna, according to your instructions, Chen is cutting all ties with the Vance family's businesses. Since the involvement wasn't deep, it should be completed within 12 hours. Additionally, your personal belongings for the marriage will be inventoried and returned from the Vance family estate within an hour. I nodded gently and said calmly, well done. A farcical wedding, swiftly ended, was not a misfortune for me. As for Oliver's harsh words, I never took them to heart. The business world is a battlefield, it relies not on 3Ts, but on strength and strategy. If he truly has the ability, he is welcome to try. But what I didn't expect was that Oliver's revenge came quite quickly, and it was utterly shameless. A few days later, news about my wedding day, alleging that I disrespected my fiancé's widowed sister-in-law and caused her miscarriage and severe bleeding, leading to her admission to the ICU, became trending news. The news portrayed Sophia as pitiful and helpless, a complete victim of my bullying. Oliver, facing the camera, said with a pained expression, "Luna, why couldn't you be a little kinder? My brother's only bloodline was ruined by you. How can I face him in the afterlife? I will atone for your sins, but you still owe my sister-in-law an apology." The trending news quickly exploded. Immediately, countless netizens flocked to Chen official social media accounts to hurl abuse at me. Chen's reputation was affected, and its stock price dropped considerably. Seeing this, Ms. Sarah said to me, "Ms. Luna, the wedding security footage is still available. Should we post it online now to clarify?" I narrowed my eyes slightly, quickly understanding the intricacies. Then I shook my head and said, "No need. Let public opinion ferment for a few more days. Buy as many shares as are sold off." Miss Sarah was a top student from my high school. She had been helping me with data analysis since college. Hearing my words, she immediately understood my meaning tacitly and gave me an okay gesture. Because of my lack of response, the company's stock price dropped even further, and the shareholders also became dissatisfied with me, starting to voice complaints. That evening, I ran into Oliver at a cocktail party. Seeing me, he looked smug. "Luna, you must have had a rough few days with the public uproar, right? I told you before, no matter how capable a woman is, she can't compare to a man. To deal with women like you, I can casually spread some rumors and bring you down. If you hand over the company to me to manage now, I can still go and register our marriage with you. Otherwise, just wait for Chen to be destroyed in your hands." Hearing's words, I found them utterly ridiculous. He actually still harbored delusions of me meekly handing over the company? He must not have woken up yet. However, society truly is much harsher on women than on men. But the more it is like this, the less easily I will be defeated. Looking at Oliver with contempt, I showed none of the indignation he expected. Instead, I swirled the champagne glass in my hand and said disdainfully, "You're quite ruthless. To slander me, you actually made Sophia abort the child in her belly." Hearing my words, Oliver's expression twisted. "Isn't this all your fault? If you hadn't refused to let me accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities, how could Sophia's child not be saved? Luna, these are all your sins. Just wait, I will step all over you eventually and avenge that child." Upon hearing this, I scoffed. Honestly, I often feel out of place among these men because I'm not ruthless enough. He himself, in order to slander me, didn't hesitate to make Sophia abort her 6-month-old child. Now he's pushing all the blame onto me. He really has a twisted mind. However, the more self-righteous he is, the better. Raising my glass to Oliver, I smiled and said, "Your skill at shifting the blame is impressive, but it doesn't work on me. Also, I would rather donate the money to charity than give your Vance family a single cent. You, of all people, presume to lay claim to my Chin family's assets? To me, you are nothing but a loser." After speaking, I walked towards the center of the cocktail party, leaving Oliver with a furious expression, as if he wanted to devour me. Within 10 seconds, I was surrounded by many business tycoons. As for Oliver, although he managed to get into this high-end cocktail party through S. own means, it was clear that everyone present already knew about the dissolution of our family's engagement. And everyone also understood that without the Chen family's support, the Vance family was nothing. So, hardly anyone present actively greeted Oliver. And so, I stood surrounded by people, deliberately flashing a disdainful smile at Oliver. Oliver, furious, crushed the champagne glass in his hand. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. With such little self-control, he dared to listen to others' instigation and scheme against me? If only he bothered to learn more about me, he would know that my ability to hold the top position of the group at my age wasn't due to mere inheritance. If I didn't have some tricks up my sleeve, I would have been eaten alive long ago. Half a month later, with the connivance of malicious individuals, more unsavory rumors about me spread like wildfire. Seeing the company's stock price plummeting, the shareholders finally grew anxious. Several shareholders, led by my uncle, announced a board meeting, intending to force me to relinquish management of the company. Luna, with the uproar so widespread now, we unanimously agree that you are no longer fit for the position of chairperson. Girls, after all, should be at home raising a family. Don't worry, even if you step down from company management, it won't affect your dividends. With Arthur here, no one can touch what's rightfully yours. Hearing these words, I couldn't help but laugh. I had tolerated that idiot Oliver's rumor-mongering precisely to reel in the big fish. Now, those insidious individuals had finally been lured out. Sitting calmly in my chair, I swept my gaze across the others. And the rest of you? Do you also think I'm unfit for my current position? Hearing this, the shareholders aligned with me immediately spoke with righteous indignation. We believe Ms. Luna, you are very suitable. Exactly, Ms. Luna's achievements since taking over Chen are evident too. We all trust you. Seeing this, I curved my lips slightly. Then I looked at Miss Sarah. Miss Sarah, please hand out the documents you have to everyone. Miss Sarah nodded and then passed around the thin stack of documents she held. Upon seeing the document, the shareholders' expressions changed repeatedly, because it was an equity holding agreement. And the holder was none other than myself, Luna. Before William passed away, fearing that I might make impulsive decisions due to my youth, he gave Aunt some shares to keep an eye on me. Therefore, I only held 49% of the shares in Chen. But through continuous acquisitions during this period, I had increased my shares by another 2%. This meant that now, I alone held 51% of the shares. What I said, others had to agree to, whether they liked it or not. Suddenly, the conference room fell silent. My Arthur looked at the document in his hand in disbelief. Then he suddenly looked up, staring intently at me. You actually acquired so many shares privately? Under normal circumstances, shareholders would naturally be unwilling to sell off so many shares. But during this period, seeing the rumors about me spreading and the company's stock price falling, some people couldn't sit still. This also gave me the opportunity to acquire a large number of shares. I didn't answer Uncle's question, but merely looked at everyone and said calmly, now, does anyone still think I'm unsuitable for the position of chairperson? Hearing my words, my core supporters immediately smiled and said, Ms. Luna, you alone hold 51% of the company's shares. No one is more suitable for the chairperson position than you. Uncle, at this moment, forced a smile and said, yes, seeing you grow into who you are now, Aunt and I can rest assured. Then, he changed the subject. However, the online rumors have already caused adverse effects on the company. If this matter cannot be resolved, it will harm all our interests. Hearing this, I nodded calmly and said, I know. But rest assured, everyone, this matter can be resolved today. Many of you here also attended my wedding at the time. You all saw what happened on site. So, you don't need to pay attention to those online rumors. Seeing me say this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. That day, I uploaded the wedding security footage and the video of Oliver making Sophia abort her child to frame me. Seeing forcing me to accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities, netizens were completely outraged. OMG, what era is this? To accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities? She's your brother's widow. Even if she lives with you, she should live in the Vance family home. What's wrong with making her live in your wife's home? It is known that Sophia's husband passed away a year ago. Pregnancy to childbirth takes 10 months. So, why is Sophia heavily pregnant now? Do we even need to ask whose child it is? I'm disgusted. He's fooling around with his widowed sister-in-law, and then forces his wife to accept her as a mistress. When his wife refuses, he spreads rumors about her online. Scumbag man and shameless woman should be locked up. Luckily, Luna saw through their true colors before the wedding. Otherwise, if she had married him, who knows how much grief she would have suffered. Immediately, public opinion swiftly turned against Oliver and Sophia. Not only were they heavily cursed by netizens, but they were also pointed at and whispered about when recognized in public. And the company's stock price, after the truth came out, rebounded, even rising higher than before. Those shareholders who had secretly sold their shares were now filled with regret. Seeing my unshakable position in the company, Uncle furiously called Oliver, berating him as a good-for-nothing. You idiot, if you had just married her earlier, none of this would be happening now. You can't even fool around with women discreetly, you had to parade it in front of Luna. Couldn't you have just married her honestly? Then, after you married, you could have gotten rid of her, and the company would have been yours for the taking. Now, my whole damn plan is ruined by you." With that, he angrily hung up the phone. Listening to the conversation through the listening device, I said to Miss Sarah with a poker face, "Didn't we just open up new mining operations in Africa? Send Arthur there." Miss Sarah curled her lips, then nodded immediately. "Understood, Ms. Luna." Within 2 days, I received a call from Aunt. She immediately coldly questioned me. "Luna, what do you mean? Uncle is getting on in years. Why are you transferring him to Africa to develop business?" Hearing this, I didn't indulge her. "Aunt, do you really not know why? You know my temper best, ever since I was little. If it were anyone else who tried to scheme against me, do you think I would give them a chance to cling to life? If it weren't for your sake, he wouldn't just be going to Africa." Aunt's fury instantly diminished at my words. Uncle was just impulsive for a moment. Besides, why do you, a girl, have to be so strong? He only wanted to help you. Hearing this, I scoffed. So, she was aware of Uncle's actions? Clutching my phone, I said coldly, "My family's company doesn't need an outsider to manage it." With that, I hung up the phone directly. A month later, that day, as I was leaving the company, a black car suddenly sped towards me. Fortunately, I had long ago hired 2 expensive bodyguards, fearing that Oliver might retaliate with extreme measures, as someone like him was capable of anything. The moment the car slammed into us, my female bodyguard pulled me behind her, avoiding the impact. The black car that had crashed into me, however, smashed head-on into the planter in front of the company building. Looking at Oliver's twisted face in the driver's seat. "Luna, go to hell." My eyes turned cold. This guy was asking for death. Seeing that he hadn't directly killed me, Oliver immediately turned the car around with a fierce look in his eyes and drove towards me again. My 2 bodyguards immediately, one shielded me, and the other jumped into my luxury SUV, ramming into Oliver's car to block him. After a loud crash, Oliver's body jolted, his head hit hard, and he was trapped in the driver's seat, covered in blood. Seeing this, I breathed a sigh of relief and immediately called the police. Soon after, the police arrived and took Oliver away. I also immediately had them retrieve the security footage. This time, I was going to make Oliver rot in prison. With irrefutable evidence, Oliver's conviction was a foregone conclusion. The family, upon learning that Oliver had tried to run me over, immediately disassociated themselves from him. "Luna, what Oliver did has nothing to do with our Vance family. You saw it that day. I had already disowned him. Please don't let that beast's actions implicate the Vance family." Hearing's words, I said calmly, "Each person is responsible for their own actions, Uncle. Rest assured, I won't do anything to the Vance family because of this. Because the current Vance family, even if I did nothing, was already kicking them while they're down, with no chance of recovery. But merely having Oliver sentenced to prison was, of course, far from enough for me. Miss Sarah, find someone to pull some strings. I don't want to see Oliver again." Miss Sarah immediately understood what I meant. She nodded slightly and said, "I understand, Ms. Luna." And on the day Oliver was sentenced. As I walked out of the courthouse, Sophia rushed towards me and knelt down, her face full of pleading. "Luna, I beg you, please let Oliver go. I am willing to do anything for you. Please give Oliver another chance. He called off the engagement with you all because of me. I am willing to sacrifice my life for his. Please let him go." Thanks to the efforts of my legal team, Oliver was sentenced to 20 years for attempted murder this time. But since he tried to kill me, there was no way I would let him leave prison alive. Looking down at Sophia's pitiful appearance, I watched her from above. "When wanted to call off the engagement for your sake, weren't you still provoking me? What's more, what good is it for you to beg me now? I was already merciful not to have him directly eliminated back then." With that, I left under the protection of my bodyguards. Sophia, meanwhile, sank to the ground, covering her face and crying bitterly. But I knew she wasn't regretting getting involved with Oliver. She was just regretting making Oliver force me to agree to accept his widowed sister-in-law and her child as permanent co-residents, expecting shared marital responsibilities, on the wedding day. After getting in the car, I listened to Miss Sarah's report while handling company matters on my laptop. Whether I got married or not, I had long since become indifferent. But power and money, I would firmly hold in my own hands. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.